On the night of February 1, 2026, residents of St. Petersburg, Russia, looked up and saw something they couldn't explain. There wasn't one moon in the sky, but four. Four bright, glowing spheres, arranged horizontally, hung over the city in the freezing darkness. Videos flooded social media within hours. Millions watched. Some called it a supernatural event. Others blamed cameras, satellites, or digital manipulation. A few claimed the world was about to change. In fact, what they saw was real, but not what anyone imagined. It was a rare atmospheric phenomenon that transformed ordinary moonlight into one of the most dramatic natural light shows the Earth's atmosphere can produce. Here's what happened, why it happened, and what the physics behind it actually tells us. Let's examine this together. The night began like most winter nights in St. Petersburg. The temperature had dropped below -20 degrees Celsius, which was very low even by Russian winter standards. High above the city, at several kilometers altitude, thin cirrus and cirrostratus clouds were drifting. That night, the moon was near the full moon phase of February, known as the snow moon, one of the brightest moons of the year. A bright moon, freezing cold, thin high clouds. These three conditions came together, setting the stage for the events that followed. When the first images appeared online, the initial reaction was confusion. In the videos, a bright moon hung in the middle of the sky, and on either side of it, above the horizon line at the same height, were three bright points of similar brightness, extending slightly vertically. To viewers scrolling through their phones, it looked as if the Earth had suddenly gained multiple natural satellites overnight. Comment sections quickly filled up. Some suggested they were Starlink satellites, noting that the objects appeared to be spaced at roughly equal intervals. Others claimed it was a lens artifact, a trick of the phone camera creating false reflections. A significant portion believed the image had been digitally manipulated. What made the situation unusual was that many witnesses reported seeing all four objects clearly with the naked eye, not just through a lens. This ruled out the possibility of a simple camera artifact. The effect was real, visible, and atmospheric. Astronomers and meteorologists clarified the situation within a few hours. The Earth still has only one moon. Its orbit, brightness, and position that night were completely normal. The explanation lay entirely in the lower atmosphere, not in space. What St. Petersburg witnessed was an optical phenomenon belonging to the family of atmospheric halo effects called Paraselene, also known as moondogs or false moons. The halo phenomenon occurs when light from the sun or moon interacts with ice crystals suspended in high-altitude clouds. The important detail here is the shape of these crystals. Under the right conditions, water vapor freezes into flat, hexagonal plate-shaped crystals, and the shape of these crystals resembles a thin sheet. As these crystals slowly fall in cold air, they bend due to air resistance and align with their flat faces pointing downwards. Think of them as small plates that slowly rotate as they fall and settle into a fixed horizontal position. This alignment transforms the crystals into natural prisms. When moonlight enters the vertical face of a hexagonal crystal and exits from another face 2 faces away, the light is refracted at a precise angle determined by the hexagon's geometry. This angle is approximately 22 degrees. This means that the refracted light always exits the crystal at an angle of approximately 22 degrees from its original direction. Since millions of crystals in the cloud layer are aligned in the same way, they all direct moonlight in the same direction at the same time. As a result, light intensifies at specific points in the sky, bright spots approximately 22 degrees to the left and right of the moon, at the same height above the horizon as the moon. These are false moons. Residents of St. Petersburg saw these alongside the real moon that night. However, not only 2 false moons were seen in St. Petersburg, a total of 4 objects appeared. This is where the special conditions of that night become important. Under typical Paraselene conditions, false moons appear as relatively compact bright spots. There are 2 factors that cause the image to appear as multiple separate moons rather than soft glowing spots: crystal size and crystal stability. Larger ice crystals produce longer, more vertically distinct false moons. Small changes in alignment, the crystals swaying slightly as they fall, elongate the refracted light vertically and create elongated light spots instead of tight points. When this vertical elongation is pronounced, a single moondog may appear layered or stacked, creating the impression of multiple objects. On the night of February 1, the combination of large crystals, their degree of instability while drifting, and a very bright full moon created fake moons extending significantly vertically on either side of the real moon. Uninformed observers saw 4 separate bright objects in a horizontal line, the real moon in the center, and multiple apparent moons on either side. Observers in St. Petersburg also noticed a subtle color feature in this image. The inner edge of each false moon appeared slightly reddish or warm-toned, while the outer edge faded into a colder bluish-white tail extending away from the real moon. This is consistent with how light of different wavelengths refracts. Shorter blue wavelengths refract at slightly different angles than longer red wavelengths, creating a faint spectral spread in each false moon. This effect is less pronounced in moon images than its daytime counterpart, but becomes visible under ideal conditions, such as those on February 1. The image lasted a few minutes. As the cloud layers over St. Petersburg drifted and thinned, the arrangement and density of the ice crystals changed, and the false moons gradually faded. This temporary weather-dependent duration is a typical feature of Paraselene events and contributes to their rarity. That same night, similar images were observed further south, in the Ukrainian city of Odessa, confirming that the responsible atmospheric conditions were widespread. The lunar counterpart of the Paraselene has a well-known counterpart during the day as well. Sundogs, also called parhelia, are formed by exactly the same mechanism, but using sunlight instead of moonlight. Sundogs are much more common because sunlight is much more intense, and the refracted points are bright enough to be visible even if the alignment of the crystals is imperfect. Perihelion requires much brighter light, almost as bright as a full moon, and much more favorable conditions to be visible to the naked eye. This combination is why events like the one in St. Petersburg are relatively rare and attract so much widespread attention when they do occur. From a science communication perspective, what happened in St. Petersburg on February 1 is almost a perfect case study. A truly rare atmospheric event was captured on video, spread around the world within hours, and millions of people began to question what they were looking at. Initial speculations ranged from the reasonable to the extraordinary. Within the same news cycle, refraction physics, crystal geometry, and light scattering were explained to viewers who had never encountered the concept of the halo phenomenon before. This event did not require new physics knowledge. It required understanding very old physics knowledge, such as how light refracts when passing through a transparent hexagonal structure, applied to a situation most people had never considered. For those who want to observe the Paracelsus phenomenon themselves, the conditions to look out for are a clear sky at ground level and thin cirrus or cirrostratus clouds high up. The temperature must be cold enough to keep ice crystals in the air, and the moon must be close to full for maximum brightness. When all these conditions come together and the moon is low enough on the horizon to reduce its glare, the chance of seeing moonstones increases significantly. No two images are exactly alike. Crystal size, cloud thickness, and atmospheric stability vary each time, making every Paraselene event visually unique. What appeared to be 4 moons over St. Petersburg was a single moon, moonlight, hexagonal ice crystals, and geometry. There was no change in the moon that night. Everything that made this image possible occurred in the few kilometers of cold atmosphere above the city. This reminds us that some of the most striking things you can see in the sky have nothing to do with space.